It is Emmy Day, Primetime Emmy High. I'm Matt Noble, joined by Riley, Luca, and Sam. And we are 2 hours shy of the Emmys at 4:30 p.m. So in 90 minutes' time, Gold Derby will be shutting their prediction center. So get in there now. And we're here with a rotating panel of editors and experts to break down every category that's going to be handed out. Will Game of Thrones reign supreme? I wonder if Chris is talking about our pre-web show or the Emmy show is going to suck or be terrible. We'll find out. But yeah, no, very exciting. I've got the board because last week we had the Creative Arts Emmy Awards. So I have the board of where each show stands in terms of wins. So we've got Game of Thrones sitting pretty on 10, clear of Miss Maisel and Chernobyl on 7. And all those shows stand chances to win and add to their tally tonight. We'll just see how high these shows can go. We'll start with Riley. Riley, what are you thinking about tonight? There's some big showdowns.
Yeah, I mean, comedy is a pretty big showdown. So I feel like we've had a different front runner at every point in the season. You know, before nominations came out, a lot of people were picking Veep. A lot of people are still picking Veep. I feel like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel kind of overtook Veep once we got all the Guild Awards, and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel won more Guild Awards than any comedy ever has in a single season. And then we got the Emmy nominations, where The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel again did very well, got 20 nominations, but it missed writing, which is a key category. And, you know, it's not always about which show just has the most nominations. You know, we see this at the Emmys. It was most pronounced when Homeland won a few years ago, when it actually had the least nominations of any of the drama series nominees. But it was nominated in all those key categories like editing and sound mixing and casting and directing and writing. So there are some categories that correlate more to winning a series Emmy than others. So Marvelous Mrs. Maisel wasn't nominated in writing. Barry was only a few nominations behind it. It had 17, and it was nominated in all those categories. So then I kind of thought, okay, well, it looks like Barry is the one to go with. And then we got the Creative Arts Awards, where again, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel did very well, won 6 awards. But I feel like Fleabag came out of that looking the best since it got those key wins in casting and editing. So I feel like the comedy race has been shifting all year long, but it has been a very long time since Veep was the front runner based on these statistics, yet most people or more people are still going with Veep than any other one. Matt, are you sticking with Veep?
I switched to The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel just today. I still think Veep could win, to all the skeptics out there. I think it's don't write off a comedy that has won the past 3 times it's been eligible. There's a lot of love for that show. I think particularly if there is vote splitting between Maisel and Barry and sort of the tech branches. Veep has 9 nominations, which is a slide backwards in terms of momentum. For sure, because I think last time they were nominated, last time they won, they had 17 nominations. So that's a big slide, which is actually with the momentum going against them is why I've changed my prediction. However, what I would say is the first time they won, they had 9 nominations. For a political comedy, you're not expecting a whole bunch of technical nominations either. So I think Veep's still very much in the hunt, and there's a lot of love for that cast and for Julia and everything they've done there, and they had a great final season. That being said, I think I'm going Mrs. Maisel. It was hard to know what to pick, and I just went with what won last year, because that often happens at the Emmys. We've seen that with Veep that won 3 in a row, with Modern Family that won 5 in a row, with 30 Rock that won 3 in a row. But I think Barry's got a really good shot at this too, and I would not be surprised for that to win. What do you think, Sam? Where are you thinking?
This is, I think, the closest of the main races for me. I'm going with Mrs. Maisel as well. I know Veep is beloved. HBO is a huge player and knows how to campaign for these Emmys, but there's just, in terms of, in addition to being an excellent ensemble piece where every character is so well acted and so fleshed out, especially season 2, and being beautifully designed and so expensive looking, and it's just a feel-good show. Everyone watches and just feels good about it, and you want more immediately. Whereas Veep has a lot of cynicism to it, and I think, right now people they love feeling good. They watch Mrs. Maisel and say, "Oh, God, I want more of that." So I think that's a very powerful thing. Even with its huge nomination tally, the feeling you get from watching it, I think, is a huge factor in a race this close. Because I think we also have Fleabag, which has really taken the world by storm because people sort of didn't discover it till season 2. It's been very easy for them to catch up with it. So I think Fleabag has really come on strong as an additional challenger. But I'm worried that, or my hunch is that the love for Veep and Fleabag are going to be centered around Julie Louis-Dreyfus and Phoebe Waller-Bridge. But Maisel overall will take the series, where they'll give actress to Julie Louis-Dreyfus. Maybe Phoebe will take a writing trophy with Mrs. Maisel absent there. But I think Mrs. Maisel will be the overall comedy winner. That's how I see it going.
Yep. Luca?
Well, I think The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is probably the safest choice, and I did have it for for a few weeks, or at least even a few months, I believe. But I'm going with the hot new thing, and that is Fleabag. It picked up 2 very important Creative Arts Emmys last weekend. It picked up casting, which is a very important award, as we've seen in the last few years. Yes, Maisel did, pick up 6 statuettes, including, best cinematography over Game of Thrones, for example. So it did beat the juggernaut in several categories. But I just feel like Fleabag has the momentum. It went from 0 nominations in season 1 to 11 nominations in season 2. And actually, I'm predicting it to win more than just series. I think it'll win writing and directing. And I do think it'll net quite a few wins this evening. I don't think Veep is in this race anymore. I think it completely underperformed. I think Julia will be the place for voters to reward the show for its final season. And I think that'll be it for it, unfortunately. But it just lost so much steam, and the final season just didn't attract as much buzz, I think, as most people were expecting.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. While we're talking about the comedy races, let's delve into comedy actor and actress. We'll start with actor. Oh, yeah. We'll start with actor and Riley. Bill Hader is the front runner in this category. He won last year. It's funny. Last year he was an upset winner. He was a surprise winner. This year he's going in the front runner. Is that gonna be costly for it?
No, I think Bill Hader is one of the biggest locks this evening. I think last year we underestimated the Emmy voters. We thought that they would go with kind of the narrative of Donald Glover putting together that fantastic season of Atlanta. But what we saw was they actually went with the performance, which is what this category is supposed to be for. It's for acting. They went with Bill Hader. And he doesn't have Donald Glover competing against him this year. He's got a whole bunch of people from shows that are not really nominated in a lot of other places. I can't imagine why anyone would predict anyone other than Bill Hader.
Yeah, just so people know who he's nominated against. He's nominated against Don Cheadle for Black Monday, Anthony Anderson for Blackish, Eugene Levy, Schitt's Creek, Ted Danson, The Good Place, and Michael Douglas, The Kominsky Method. Some big names. Ted Danson, a TV icon in a show that broke through in Best Comedy Series. Michael Douglas, an Oscar-winning actor, although The Kominsky Method did not do as well with nominations as people were expecting this year. And, Anthony Anderson from Blackish is sort of the veteran of the category, the overdue person. You could argue Don Cheadle is, because he got a lot of nominations for House of Lies, but this is his first nomination for Black Monday.
And Cheadle's been nominated for a few other things over the years, too.
So he's collectively overdue, but Anthony Anderson has the overdue role, I guess, in this category. And Eugene Levy, Schitt's Creek, surprised a lot of people with nominations this year. Maybe it'll surprise with a win. Sam, if someone upset Bill Hader, who would it be?
Well, in my heart of hearts, I would love that to be Eugene Levy because I'm obsessed with Schitt's Creek. But his problem is, even though it's surprised and it does have this cult following, he doesn't sort of dominate his series the way his other nominees do. Schitt's Creek is more of very equally balanced between the four leads, I think, which hurts him a little bit. I remember I watched his episode and you spend just as much, if not more, time with Dan Levy and Catherine O'Hara in it. So I don't see him doing that. Ted Danson maybe can pull off an upset because The Good Place is another comedy series nominee, but I don't know that there's one. It doesn't feel like there's one option for an upset here, which is why I think Bill Hader is such a dominant force. That combined with the overwhelming love they have for Barry, I think that basically gives it to him because the other men from the shows that are nominated for comedy series just don't quite. I don't quite see a path for them.
Yeah, Luca, if you had to pick someone to upset Bill Hader, who would it be?
I would agree with Sam. I don't think there is a clear competitor. I do think it would probably be between Ted Danson and Eugene Levy just because they are in comedy series nominees and because Ted Danson is a veteran actor and Eugene Levy's show has a lot of passion. But I don't think the other three really have a chance. I don't even think Michael Douglas has a chance because 15 of last year's 16 acting awards went to actors competing for shows that were nominated in the top series categories, and that's not a trend I'm going to bet against this year. And Kaminsky just underperformed overall. I think if it had gotten many more nominations, including Best Comedy Series, he could have won, but at this point, I don't think it's possible. And Anthony Anderson and Don Cheadle don't have a chance at all, I fear. But I think Bill Hader is absolutely locked, which worries me a bit because I think it's worrisome to call anyone a lock at the Emmys, but I don't see a reason why he should lose.
Yeah, and I'd go with Ted Danson if I had to pick an upset in this category. I think he's such an icon in television.
Yeah.
The Good Place was able to break through in comedy series, and I think he gives a very comedic performance, a performance that would appeal to voters. Yeah. So I think there's a lot going for him. But yes, I think Bill Hader got this one, probably one of the easiest acting predictions of the night. Raj, do you want to chuck in who you think would beat him, if anyone would beat Bill?
Eugene Levy.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. So what about the comedy actress side of things? Julia Louis-Dreyfus chasing some Emmy history, including just put the records aside. Like, she will have won if she's won for every season for this show. Like, she would have got a perfect batting 100%. For Veep, winning 7 from 7 seasons, and that's pretty incredible. I don't think many, if any, well, no one's won for every season of a series that's run this long. I would imagine. Sure. There's probably a few Emmy winners who have won for a show that got cancelled in its first season or something like that.
Well, there's the opposite situation where Angela Lansbury is nominated for every season of Murder, She Wrote, but then she never won a single.
She never won. Yeah, the reverse Lansbury is what Julia Louis-Dreyfus is chasing. Can she lose is the question. And if she can lose, who does she lose to? The nominees for lead actress in a comedy series. Julia Louis-Dreyfus for Veep, Christina Applegate, Dead to Me, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Fleabag, Natasha Lyonne, Russian Doll, Catherine O'Hara, Schitt's Creek, and Rachel Brosnahan, last year's winner for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Luca, who do you think could upset Julia? Or do you think Julia's winning or not? What's your prediction?
I do think she's winning. I think Emmy voters will want to see her on that stage one final time. She's been through quite a year. And I also think it'll be the reward for Veep's final season. That being said, I don't think she'll take this in a cakewalk like she has in the past, because she has Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Rachel Brosnahan, who she has to duke it out with. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is one of the hottest people at the moment. I mean, she has 4 Emmy nominations, 3 for Fleabag and then 1 for producing Killing Eve. So she has a lot of passion behind her, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see her win, especially if Fleabag goes on some steamroll. But I just can't bet against Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She's won for every season of this show, and I think she'll win that 7th statuette for Veep. And then she'd beat Cloris Leachman for the most primetime acting wins. And I think that'll actually happen. I do think someone like Catherine O'Hara probably also has a lot of passion, because Schitt's Creek does, but she might have to wait till next year for the final season of the show.
Yep. Riley.
Yeah, I don't have Julia Louis-Dreyfus in first or second. I have her in third.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah,
Explain yourself.
I mean, she could win.
Yeah.
I mean, she's won 6 times or whatever. But she is facing competition this year like she never has before. In fact, I think for the last several seasons, I'm not sure that she's faced any competition at all. It's kind of more just like a Bill Hader in lead actor race. I'm going with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She gives a great performance, which is something that we underestimated last year with Bill Hader. And, Fleabag is going to be steamrolling these Emmys, according to my predictions now in the last week after the Creative Arts. I think Rachel Brosnahan could also take it, because The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel could very easily win comedy series, which is not something that could be said for Veep. Veep does have 9 nominations overall, which is the same number that it won with back in 2015. But back in 2015, there was only one other comedy that had more nominations, and that was Transparent with 12. Whereas this year, Veep is not close to being at the front of the pack, and it didn't pull off casting at the Creative Arts. I just feel like it has nothing going for it except for its kind of momentum within the media. Since we're all obsessed with statistics and how it's won in the past.
Yeah, that's fair. Sam, what do you think?
Well, I do have Julia winning. I'm not super confident about her this time, though, because of I think with this lineup, everyone except Christina Applegate has you could craft a narrative for them of why they could win. I think Phoebe Waller-Bridge is again a huge threat here, because she's just having such a moment right now in the industry. But there are other places where she can pick up a trophy, like the writing category. So I think Julia is really where the Veep love will land. If it doesn't win series, if it doesn't win anything else, I just see it centered around Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And I know there's a lot of talk of, oh my God, 7's impossible. How are they going to give it to her yet again? Because every time she had won for Veep, people go, really, again? But then she gets up there and speaks, and I think she's just one of the most beloved people in Hollywood. They love her more than I think we've seen Emmys love anyone in the past. And they're going to say 7? Yeah, why not? Give her a 7th one. That's probably not enough for Julia. I think they would give her more if Veep was going to keep going. But so I have her out there right now, but I think Phoebe is a major threat to take her down.
Yeah. Do we want to stick on the comedy races, guys? Do we think that while we're talking comedy, do we want to stay with there, or do we want to switch gears?
Go for it.
I'll be here all
Okay,
night.
for comedy.
Whatever you want.
Let's stick with comedy then. So with what's another comedy? Let's talk about the writing and directing races, since we've talked a bit about actors and acting sort of stuff. So for best, sorry, I just lost my list of nominees, but I got them now. For comedy directing, the nominations are Barry, The Audition, directed by Alec Berg. Barry, Ron and Lily, directed by Bill Hader. So the two creators going head to head. Then you got Fleabag, directed by Harry Bredier. The Big Bang Theory, directed by Mark Sendrowski. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, directed, is the episode All Alone, directed by Amy Sherman Palladino. And The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, we're going to the Catskills, directed by Daniel Palladino. So the partners going. We've got a couple going head to head, and we've got two creators of another series going head to head. And as we've known, the Big Bang Theory episode that's nominated is The Stockholm Syndrome, which I believe is their series final, and Fleabag's the first episode of the season is what's nominated there. Sam, what do you think is going to take out directing?
Well, I went back and forth on this, but I think the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel episode, We're Going to the Catskills, is just so it's so big in terms of scale and production. It just looks so expensive, and there's so many moving parts to the episode. But within that, there's lots of little tiny character moments that they milk out of this really huge set piece episode. So I think that is going to do it. Again, I'm just nervous that if Fleabag is having a huge moment, it could also just be checked off here because the directors want to support it as well. But I think We're Going to the Catskills is one of the most memorable episodes of TV, and in one of their favorite shows, which is The Threat for Comedy Series. So that's what I have, is We're Going to the Catskills. Okay.
What do you think, Sam? So what do you think, Luca? Sorry.
No, bro. Well, for the longest time, I had Barry's Ronnie Lily because it was one of the most buzzed about episodes of the entire year, and it was directed by Bill Hader. But about 2 hours ago, I actually switched to Fleabag's first episode because I think Fleabag will take comedy series. And sometimes when a show steamrolls, obviously when it steamrolls, it takes a bunch of categories with it. And I think directing will be one of those. It can capitalize on the vote splitting that might occur between the Maisel episodes and between the Barry episodes, even if there is a standout of one of the Maisel episodes, and the same for Barry. But sometimes we don't see that manifested in the wins. So I'm just going with Fleabag because I think it'll take series. I don't feel confident at all. And I wouldn't be surprised to see one of the Maisel episodes win or see Barry's Ronnie Lily win, but I'm going out on a limb here.
Yeah, I today. I think I already have. I was going to change to this today, but I kept the prediction because I had already predicted it. Ron and Lily. I just think it's such a flashy episode. I think it's Bill Hader being the director on the list is going to help get some votes. Although it is just directors voting, so that could mean they don't want to award it to an actor. Yeah. But Riley, what do you think?
Well, Bill Hader did win at the Directors Guild of America Awards. They're a bit more of a populist group. They do like to go with actors more often than the directors branch of the Television Academy. But I do think that he has significant support. I switched over to Fleabag. I've had Ronnie Lily all season because of that DGA win, because it was such an iconic episode, because I had Barry winning comedy series. But at the Creative Arts, I thought Barry kind of underperformed. I mean, it didn't win editing. It had 2 episodes nominated. I thought that Ronnie Lily should have been a clear enough choice if it's a clear enough choice in this category, and if it's going to win this one, I feel like it could have picked up editing. It didn't win casting, even though it's a show about actors and all of them were nominated, the complete regular cast. And we know that it has support among directors, and directors are the primary branch that are voting on the casting award. So I'm not sure how much passion there is for Barry, surprisingly enough. I kind of wonder if it got all of the nominations that it did just because the Television Academy is so susceptible to new programs on HBO. We saw for years in this category, Silicon Valley just pick up every nomination that it possibly could have, but that never really translated into passion for a win. So right now I'm going with Fleabag, since I have it winning comedy series and it doesn't face any vote splitting. This could be a very telling category in the ceremony. Like if The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel does overcome vote splitting, and I do think it would be for the Amy Sherman Palladino episode and not the more popular choice if we're going to the Catskills. if they are able to overcome vote splitting here, then I will be regretting my predictions for later on in the ceremony. I'm very curious to know what predictions you guys changed in the last week since the creative arts, because this is one of the ones that I changed.
Yeah,
Okay.
Along with writing too. I also changed that one from Barry to Fleabag.
And it's not too late to change your predictions. The Prediction Center closes in, I think, just over an hour's time. So just over an hour's time, 4:30 Pacific time. So I've got my Prediction Center open at goldderby.com, and I, as we discuss, might be making some changes as I hear great cases being made by our panel. So what? Sam, what did you change?
Oh, well, today I changed. I mean, I went to more of a popular choice, but in drama supporting actress, I had Gwendolyn Christie out front for a long time because I wanted to be gutsy, and I thought she had like a great submission, and she like in Game of Thrones, which is a series with so many characters, and it's very hard to have someone stand out, and with 4 nominees in a category. From the same show, very hard to stand out and solidify one person to rally behind. But, Brienne of Tarth is a character you can really root for, want her to succeed. I think she's a fan favorite, had I think, an awesome submission. But I just am getting scared that, it's just going to end with only Peter Dinklage is the only actor to be able to win from Game of Thrones. And I switched to Julia Garner from Ozark. For drama supporting actress, because I think she'll be like the one sort of beacon for Ozark. But I think that's the big one I just switched today.
I switched a bit disappointingly, but I switched from a Deadwood movie to the Black Mirror Bandersnatch episode, and I had Patricia Arquette for lead actress in a miniseries, and I switched that out for Michelle Williams. So they're the two of the changes that I can remember making in the past 24 hours. Luca?
Yeah, I also switched from Deadwood the movie to Bandersnatch. I think Riley mentioned this a long time ago, where he said, there will be a bunch of voters who didn't watch Deadwood the series, who wouldn't, understand this movie, or the movie wouldn't be accessible to them. And I think Black Mirror is such a safe choice for them, or, the other movie they could practically go for. And I don't think the other 3 in that category have all that much passion. And then I had Lena Headey in number 1 for the longest time, which was more of a hope diction instead of a prediction. But I'm going with Fiona Shaw now, because I think she can pull off what Andau did 2 years ago, where she had a nomination in supporting actress and in guest actress, and then wins the bigger category with the help of her guest nomination. And Killing Eve has a lot of support, and she's, the veteran actress who's been around for such a long time. And even though I really, really, really want Lena Headey to win, I don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Riley, did you make any changes? I know you started this discussion, but were there any other ones you made?
Yeah, kind of a boring one I made is that I switched to Chernobyl in writing. I feel like most people kind of figured that out a long time ago. But, with Chernobyl winning 7 Creative Arts Emmys, it seems like this race is, it'd be hard for it to end in a sweep, going completely the opposite direction at the main ceremony for When They See Us. Chernobyl, with its 7 wins, it would be the first ever to win 7 Creative Arts Emmys and then lose Best Limited Series. So we'll see if that happens. I think it's something like the last 7 casting winners have gone on to win limited series or movie. So we're getting some kind of statistic broken tonight, which is always fun. Just to talk about Black Mirror, since I have been talking about that one forever, so I'll ride that one out. I looked it up a while ago, but it's something like in the last 8 or 10 years, the Academy has admitted like 10,000 new members, going from like 14,000 to 24,000 in an effort to diversify the membership, just like the Film Academy is doing. And all the people who are coming in, I figure, are greener than all the people who had been voting on the Emmys for many years. So that means that they're younger. And, maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago or whatever, when Deadwood was on, maybe they weren't watching television like they are now. Whereas I feel like everyone has seen Black Mirror at some point within the last 5 years. So when voters get to this category, and if they haven't seen any of the nominees, they'll check off Black Mirror by default. So I figured that sample is going to be large enough to pool with whoever actually enjoyed Bandersnatch or watched it and didn't watch the other ones. And that'll be enough to eke out a win. I know that it doesn't have nearly as many nominations as Deadwood, but for as many nominations as Deadwood has, I feel like it really underperformed in terms of missing writing, directing, acting, and not getting a single creative arts win.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's the big factor for me. I went in to change my miniseries prediction from When They See Us to Chernobyl, and I just didn't do it. I just kept When They See Us there. But I think that's like such a compelling race because I think there is so much love for both of those shows.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm doing in the industry clearly when we look at the nominations and stuff, but even just with like anyone I've spoken to that's watched either of those two miniseries has loved them.
Yeah, I think Chernobyl will end up with more wins, but I think When They See Us is going to end up taking the top award just because it feels so powerful and so relevant right now, and I think that's going to slightly push it over the edge when people are thinking about what really moved them.
But doesn't Chernobyl also seem so relevant now?
Yes, it does, and that's why I think it's going to win a lot of awards. But it's in a realm where we think it's like talking about something in the past, and I think you can just see. I don't know. I think the way that When They See Us is structured, it really pulled at people and became that thing that you couldn't stop watching. You had to watch one more episode. And I think that's going to say something. It feels like things we're talking about right now at this moment, and in history, but not far history. It's very recent history.
I think they're both very important, but one is taking place over in the Soviet Union and one is taking place in America,
right,
and it's addressing very topical issues. I think race often trumps all else when it comes to entertainment awards.
Yeah. And I think the problem is that When They See Us has the support from the actors, and Chernobyl has the below the line support. But When They See Us got 8 acting nominations, and I think that's what it'll ultimately carry it across the finish line. I think, as Riley mentioned, it's this American story that sent shockwaves through households, in the 80s. I think it'll probably end up taking limited series, but it's not an easy win for it because Chernobyl is a strong competitor. Even though IMDb really isn't that important at all, it became the highest rated IMDb series with a 9.5 rating. It blew up more than anyone expected it to. So I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up taking that. But I think even if When They See Us doesn't win this prize, I think it'll do well in the acting categories.
Yeah. And I think like the interesting thing is you got Chernobyl and When They See Us, both about events in the 80s that seem incredibly relevant today. Like, so look, I'm not going to be shocked if either of those two shows wins. I decided to stick with When They See Us when I got in there to change it to Chernobyl. Who knows? I got, how long? 50 minutes or something to change my mind, still to change my mind. Sam, what category are you most excited about? Are you anticipating the most?
Ooh. The one where I kept going back and forth, and I want both of them to win, so it makes it hard for me, is drama actress, because I kept going back and forth between, is it Sandra Oh or is it Jodie Comer? They're both incredible. I ultimately decided on Sandra Oh, unless I go back and change it one more time. But I think Jodie Comer had such a fascinating season this year. She has an incredible submission. She gets to do multiple personalities, and she does accents, and she gets to be completely unhinged and completely emotional. And they're both thrilling to watch. But I think Sandra Oh, because people thought she should have won last year, and there's just a lot of love for her. She's been nominated many times before, so I think it'll be very, very close. Actually, I don't think anyone was anticipating it to be that close at the start of the season, but I think in a close race, Sandra Oh will take it. At least that's what I have predicted. But I just like that whole lineup for Best Drama Actress.
Well, Sam, it begs the question for me that if you're asking, is it Sandra Oh or Jodie Comer that are both from Killing Eve, is it someone else? Like, do they split the vote?
Maybe, but also it could just be a race between two people. Just because we describe races between two people all the time, it doesn't mean there's someone else coming up the middle. I just think Killing Eve took off, and there's a lot of love for that show. I don't know that there's one alternative for that third place person. I think that would be pretty also split between people checking off Game of Thrones and going with Emilia Clarke, or Laura Linney, who is like a Emmy royalty and has, I think, won an Emmy for every character she's been nominated for thus far. So I don't think we should count out either of those two women, but if there's no real consensus on who that third person is, I just still think it's between the two Killing Eve co-stars.
Yeah. Do you want to weigh in, Luca? The other nominees, other than Jodie Comer from Killing Eve and Sandra Oh from Killing Eve, are Emilia Clarke, Game of Thrones, Laura Linney, Ozark, Robin Wright, House of Cards, Mandy Moore, This Is Us, and Viola Davis, How to Get Away with Murder.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Sandra Oh. I think the main reason why is because, except for Robin Wright, every one of the other actresses could have been nominated last year, but wasn't because of the heavy competition, because we had Claire Foy and Tatiana Maslany, Elizabeth Moss, and so on. And they were able to get in this year probably because the competition is gone, while Sandra Oh was in there last year already. I do think Jodie Comer gave the flashier performance in season 2. If I had to choose between one of the two, I'd vote for her, definitely. But Sandra Oh is a 10-time nominee. She's been waiting for this for a long time. She has a lot of support from actors. I think she'll take this. If this were based on submissions, Viola Davis would be winning this, and I wouldn't even think about it twice because she has the flashiest episode of everyone, but we know they don't watch them, or we guess they don't watch them. But yeah, this is Sandra Oh, and I think Laura Linney I have in second because the Emmy voters love her. So, and she gives a very powerful performance in Ozark.
Riley, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, it's tricky because, I mean, lead actress, that's a category where you would think that performance would trump all, like we saw last year again with Bill Hader over Donald Glover. So I'm a little concerned about this narrative about Sandra Oh. Maybe the voters just don't care about narratives, or at least maybe they won't in this category. I do have the two of them ranked up top. I guess if there was an alternative, I would go with Laura Linney because Ozark seems kind of strong, but then is Ozark really going to be taking 3 acting awards, which is kind of what I figure would happen if Laura Linney is strong enough to take the vote split? Because, I mean, Jason Bateman is right there in lead actor coming off of his SAG win, and Julia Garner is the front runner in her category. So I don't think Ozark is going to take 3 awards. Another thing I wonder about with Killing Eve is when voters actually caught up with the show, because we saw it get 2 nominations last year for Sandra Oh and for writing. So not everybody had seen it by then. Clearly everybody, or at least enough people, have seen it now since it got the 9 nominations. So if voters are basing their votes on both seasons because they've just binged both of them, then I feel like that really helps Sandra Oh, since people liked her more in the first season. But if voters actually did kind of watch the first season and just weren't really that passionate about it, or they feel like that was a long time ago now, then maybe they're more inclined to go with Jodie Comer since they know they're voting on the second season.
Yeah, I'm going with O as well. I wouldn't sleep completely on Emilia Clarke, who there was a lot of divided opinions on the writing of this season of Game of Thrones, but I think she really knocked it out of the park in terms of performance. And if Game of Thrones just goes on this big run where they're wanting to, we've only ever given sort of Peter Dinklage an acting win. We better vote for some of the Game of Thrones people. And this is a category where Game of Thrones doesn't have to worry about vote splitting. So, but I do agree Laura Linney's a huge threat as well. Now let's all wait and see them give it to Robin Wright for the final season of House of Cards. For sort of, and in some ways, Robin Wright does have a good story that she was the one who got that last season of House of Cards made when their lead actor Tailspin almost was a human wrecking ball into that show finishing. And it was Robin Wright that really made sure people stayed in work and all that sort of stuff. So, and she's a great actress. She's been nominated for every season of House of Cards, hasn't she? Or did she get snubbed once?
Yeah,
she's been.
They actually have Netflix executives coming out and saying, like, Robin Wright is the reason this last season happened. Like, that narrative is very much in play. I was really considering her, and then I watched the final season of House of Cards.
Yeah, which, look, I agree. It was not well received. It's not like it was received any better than the Game of Thrones final season. When I spoke with Michael Kelly, though, he did point out that, they had to rewrite this season in like a couple of weeks or whatever. They really had their backs against the wall, the writers who sort of all of a sudden, oh, yeah, the lead actor for our show is now not coming back. We've got to change it all around. So, the writers were dealt a bad hand. And the performances from Robin Wright and Michael Kelly are still great performances, despite how that last season may have panned out critically. Yes. Luca, what category are you most excited for or looking forward to tonight?
I've probably already mentioned it, but it really is Best Drama Supporting Actress, just because I think Lena Headey should have already won this Emmy in 2015 for the 5th season and in 2016 for the 6th season. And yes, she didn't have a lot to do in this season, and she had very little screen time, but I thought that her work in The Bells was incredible, and I think people are dismissing her for it, which I think is a shame. But that is the category I will most I will be looking forward to, even though I'm pretty sure I'll end up being disappointed. And the other one would be Limited Series Actress, because I think it's one of the strongest races we've had in many years, or in the past years, because, Patricia Arquette and Amy Adams and Michelle Williams and Joey King, which is one of my favorite performances of the year. That's a race that is incredibly stacked. So that's another one I'm looking forward to.
Who are you predicting in that race, Luca?
I'm predicting Michelle Williams, because Fosse Verdon blew up with 17 nominations. Every time someone talks about that show, then it's about Michelle Williams' performance and how she juggles so many things at once, dancing and singing, and how she changes her voice. And it's just been the talking points of the last few months, and she won the Television Critics Association Award on her way to the Emmys. I would watch out for Patricia Arquette, because she swept the circuit, and she gives an incredibly transformative performance. But sometimes when you win all the precursors, voters want to go somewhere else, and she's never really competed against Michelle Williams. It's my favorite performance of the entire year, so I'd be very happy if the entire 2018-19 season, so I'd be happy if she won. But I'm not going to change from my Williams prediction.
Yeah, don't sleep on Patricia Arquette, because she's also someone who's loved amongst actors. Actors love Patricia Arquette. Take aside this miniseries performance, which she does a great job in. Is she upset for Medium in the past in the drama lead actress race? So don't sleep on Patricia Arquette. Personally, I loved Amy Adams in Sharp Objects. If I was voting, that's where I would vote. I think that is one of Amy Adams' best performances ever in film or television. I think my favorite Amy Adams performance is Junebug, but I think the Sharp Objects could be in that number 2 slot. So it's just such a shame it's such a stacked field, because even though I'll be a bit upset that Amy Adams doesn't win, it's going to be to a really great performance and a great actress, whoever gets it, I would imagine. And Foss Verdon is already on 3 Emmys from last week, I believe. Mm-hmm. So, and I've done little lines here showing how high those shows can climb if they win all the categories that they're nominated in. So, and the line between 12 and 13 is the record for most Emmys in a year that is actually currently held by Game of Thrones. And Game of Thrones looks like it's going to smash through its own record tonight. So there you go. Fantastic. I will invite, we're up to our next panelists, so I will invite Charlie and Daniel to join, but please stay on, Sam and Luca, while we wait for them. Sam, do you want to say anything about the limited actress race since Luca's started?
I mean, I agree. It's probably between Michelle Williams and Patricia Arquette. I have Michelle Williams just because, I mean, transforming yourself into, this beloved, famous figure is a classic way of winning these awards. Gwen Verdon was the queen of Broadway. She's entertainment industry legend. And I think Michelle Williams gets such high stakes emotional material to play with, and really, not only has to act, but dance and embody this woman who's very different from her, that everyone, lots of people know her very well and what she was like because she created so many classic roles. So I'm going with Michelle Williams, but it does feel bizarre to me that I don't have Patricia Arquette winning an Emmy despite her 2 nominations. So that feels sort of wrong because they're 2 really high profile, transformative, Emmy bait roles. So I'm probably wrong about one of them, but I'm still going to go with Michelle Williams for lead actress.
Yeah.
And Sam, who would you pick? Who's your preference in that category?
I think I'd also be torn between those 2, but I would go for Michelle Williams. Okay. Because I think it's, I don't know. It would be very close for me as well, I think. So it's going to be close for the Emmy voters, but I would go for Michelle Williams personally.
Yes. Yes. Riley, any thoughts on that category?
Yeah, I go with Arquette personally. It is bizarre that she's not going to win an Emmy for this role, supposedly. I mean, we'll see. Just how she put on 40 pounds for the role, and she really carries that show. I'm not sure the show would have had the traction that it has had over the season without her performance. A lot of people say that about Michelle Williams and Fosse Verdon. I think I was kind of looking for one of these shows to develop some kind of an edge over the creative arts ceremony. Fosse Verdon, it did pick up those music direction and makeup and hair wins, but not really a huge surprise. Escape at Dannemora, meanwhile, didn't win anything and was glaringly absent from some categories like editing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think overall, I would venture to say that more people like Fosse Verdon, they come away just enjoying it more than Escape to Dannemora. It feels a little bit more of an accessible show in some ways, and I think maybe that's why it performed better in nominations. So that could be another factor in Michelle Williams taking the award.
Yes, yeah. And just to run through the nominees in that category in case we've overlooked anyone. You got Patricia Arquette from Escape at Dannemora, Michelle Williams for Fosse Verdon, Amy Adams, Sharp Objects, Joey King, The Act. Great. Onjane Ellis from When They See Us, and Niecy Nash from When They See Us. And Niecy Nash, big fan of Gold Derby. She's always very nice just when we see her at events and does interviews with us and things. So, fantastic. Daniel is here. Still waiting for Charles. Daniel, do you want to weigh in on this limited actress series race?
Yeah, it seemed to be all Patricia all the time before the nominations were announced. It's one of those interesting situations where she kind of ran away with the Fall Awards, the Golden Globes, Critics' Choice. Her only real competition, though, then was Amy Adams, and it's interesting. she didn't have to fake, like, because 2018 was a relatively slow year for lead actresses in a movie or limited series. Like that year, of course, Regina King won for 7 Seconds at the Emmys. That was the only nomination for 7 Seconds at the Emmys. I think if most of these women were competing in last year's race, they would win. So the fact that the spring gave us Fosse Verdon, which did so well in the nominations, picking up that surprise nomination too for Margaret Qualley for a supporting actress. So the actress branch was really paying attention. I really think that moves the race in Michelle's direction in a really big way. I do think that is a race still where I could see Patricia Arquette winning. I could see maybe Amy Adams, if maybe, but probably not. Like I can see the path for her, but it's pretty. It would be one of those very, like, if you're modeling this like a statistical model, it's like maybe one path in 10,000 gets her to the Emmy stage. But we could be in that time. So.
Look, I'd vote for Amy Adams. I don't see her winning this at all. Like,
I would
as someone who thinks she gives the best performance and would vote for her, I don't see a path.
And the thing that, I look at the Gold Derby Awards every once in a while. Like, there's some things that I look for at the Gold Derby Awards when we're looking at how the vote totals are coming in. Amy Adams beat Michelle Williams by 2 votes, and Gold Derby is just Amy Adams town. Like, she really should have been able to win. She won it, but she really should have been able to win that by an explosive margin, and she didn't. And Michelle Williams in second place in our voting was just miles ahead of Patricia Arquette. So I really think Michelle has this, although it's not guaranteed.
Daniel, do you know who was second in movie limited supporting actor?
Second in movie limited supporting actor. I can call that up in a second. Keep talking.
Well, how about we have a look at the movie limited supporting actor contenders, and I'll read them out now while Daniel gets those stats up. There's Ben Whishaw for a very English scandal. Stellan Skarsgård for Chernobyl. Paul Dano, Escape at Dannemora. Asante Black, When They See Us, John Leguizamo, When They See Us, and Michael K. Williams, When They See Us, and my apologies for mispronouncing names.
And I have the stats open, and this will be relevant to my prediction here. Ben Whishaw won the Gold Derby Award, but second place was Stellan for Chernobyl. And then Michael Kenneth Williams for When They See Us was our third place finisher. And I do think if When They See Us wins this category, it will be for him. But I feel like if he won this category, this is a pretty stacked category. It would have been narrow in the first place. So the fact that he has now 2 co-stars up against him really hurts him more than a lot of other potential double nominees and split vote nominees. I'm actually, even before these votes came in, I've been predicting Stellan Skarsgård because I think they love Chernobyl. The actors branch didn't love it quite as much as the other branches, although if you think about the ensemble cast of Chernobyl, it really got everyone in who was likely to. So there's no reason to think that the actors branch doesn't at least like Chernobyl quite a bit, and I don't necessarily see it going home empty-handed from the actors branch. So I've got Stellan there, and I really don't think it's going to be Ben, because I think maybe twice in the last 20 years has someone won this category without a nomination in the top race for their show. So I really feel that I just feel like there's not enough support, not enough name recognition for Ben Whishaw. Like, he's not one of those huge Oscar-winning movie star types who they'll just check off his name automatically. So I think it's Stellan. I think Paul Dano also has a shot, and I think Michael K. Williams has a shot.
Yeah. What do you think, O'Reilly?
I have Michael Kenneth Williams because When They See Us got 8 acting nominations, and Ben Whishaw didn't get his series didn't get a nomination. And I kind of wonder if Michael Kenneth Williams is just one of those guys who we'll start to see pick up a lot of Emmys, and just kind of to recognize a career of hard work, because he's picked up 3 nominations in a very short time for roles that were not particularly memorable. He was on The Wire for years, and I feel like there's just kind of love spilling over for that. I feel like this he actually has a good shot now, whereas it would have been much more random if he had won for Bessie or The Night Of. With Ben Whishaw, I do kind of wonder, though, even though the series isn't nominated, I wonder if the series achieved the visibility that it needed to. Like, it still got Hugh Grant in, it still got writing, directing. I kind of feel like maybe as many people watched it last year as Godless, which won this category. Having said that, Godless had different competition.
Yeah. No, good point. Luca, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Riley. I'm going with Michael Kenneth Williams. I think he's been nominated so many times at the Emmys. He's long overdue. He's in a show that just produced 8 acting nominations. He gives a very showy performance, especially in that first episode. And I don't actually think the vote splitting will hurt him that much because, I mean, Asante Black is amazing, but he's 17 years old and they really don't go for young people in these categories. And John Leguizamo already has an Emmy, so maybe they just want to give it to Michael K. Williams for all the work he's turned in recently or throughout the last few years. And I think When They See Us has to pick up more than just one acting award, and I think the other one is probably in lead actor. So I don't feel confident about it. I think Ben Whishaw could still take it, but A Very English Scandal isn't nominated for series, and that does worry me a bit. My personal favorite would be, my personal choice would be Paul Dano, because he did an incredible job in Escape at Dannemora, and his performance, especially in his episode, which was the finale, how he goes from being very internal to being loud. I thought it was incredible, but I'm not sure if he'll be able to beat Stellan Skarsgård, Michael K. Williams, and Ben Whishaw.
Interesting. Sam?
I also have Michael Kenneth Williams. I think the actors are going to like that show a lot. It's going to be big with that group. I think this is a place where they can reward it. Again, I think it's going to take lead actor as well. I think I have Stellan down in like 3rd or 4th. I loved Chernobyl. I love Stellan Skarsgård. It's a great performance, but it's very restrained. And that's a difficult type of role to win an Emmy for. When you think of the roles that sort of win Emmys, you want something that has that one defining scene that stands out to you that you think of while you're checking names off on the ballot. And I don't know that he has that one huge emotional outbreak moment. That's why I think it's hard to win for a role like that, even though it's still an amazing performance. So I don't have him winning. I do think Ben Whishaw gets to cheat a little bit because he's like a lead basically in supporting, and I think that's
so is Paul Dano.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
That's why I think I have I have Paul Dano in 3rd and Stellan in 4th. But I think the race is probably Michael Kenneth Williams is out front for me, just because When They See Us I think will be very strong with the acting branch, and he has a great performance and a great body of work to reward finally.
And it's very interesting because I don't know. I switched today from Kenneth Williams to Skarsgård, and now I'm panicking about that change. I'm now going, oh no. All you guys.
Remember that they like the name Skarsgård in this category. His son won this category 2 years ago, so that would be a very interesting. I would love to see him if he wins. I would love to see him mention that in his speech. That would be really lovely.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Like son, like father.
Yeah. Daniel, what category are you particularly excited about? Or what are you looking forward to today?
I mean, excited about, it's hard to excited versus anxious about are very close to mine.
Yes.
There are the categories that I'm really not anxious about being wrong about. I'm really not looking forward to when I get them wrong, like half of the comedy categories. I would say best comedy series, but I feel like the comedy races are gonna go down. By the time we get to comedy series, I think we might know which way the wind is blowing. Based on if Fleabag starts winning everything, if Maisel starts winning everything, if Veep does something unexpected, wins for it's not nominated for writing or directing. I can't remember which one it missed.
Writing.
Okay, so if it wins there, and if it wins Tony Hale, surprisingly, because he's won twice before, and yet he hasn't really been in that conversation. We could really see if this what the trajectory is. But also, honestly, the one I'm looking forward to in terms of I think I know who's going to win, and I hope I'm right because I'm going to love seeing that speech, is Best Movie Mini Actor, which I've got Jarrell Jerome. I think of all, like, the When They See Us Love, there's so much love from the actors branch, and he is the only one who's not up against the co-star, which is it just makes him so powerful in this race, and he's so much the heart of it, especially by the end of it, even though he probably has less total screen time than a couple of the supporting actor nominees. But yeah, I feel like there's just so much sentiment for When They See Us. And I feel like that's gonna really surround him, and I feel like just as a career moment, it's gonna be really beautiful to see him up there with an Emmy. If he wins, my fingers crossed.
Yeah. So the nominees there are Jamel Jerome, Jared Harris, Benicio del Toro, Escape at Dannemora, Sam Rockwell, Foss Verdon, Mahershala Ali, True Detective, and Hugh Grant, A Very English Scandal. Harris is nominated for Chernobyl. Yeah, no, I agree. He's probably going to win. I think Jared Harris is a threat for Chernobyl, but other than that, I think that's sort of the race. What do you think, Sam?
I would say Sam Rockwell is also in it because he, again, I think Fosse Verdon, that series, provides some really big emotional moments. So I would say Jared Harris and Sam Rockwell are both spoilers there, but Jarrell Jerome just seems like such an easy, well, not easy because there's lots of competition, but that just seems like the one acting race for When They See Us that voters will really be able to rally around. And I agree with Daniel. It'll be a really cool moment for his career should he win that.
Yeah. No, good. Luca?
Yeah, I agree. I think his hurdle was the nomination, and once he got the nomination, I put him in number one immediately. And that's another case where I watched that fourth episode and I just slotted it into my predictions because he's absolutely incredible in it. And I don't even think it matters that he has so little screen time because the series practically ends with his big episode, and he has so much to do in it. He's so transformative in parts. He gives a very emotional performance, and people love it. I mean, if you look anywhere on Twitter, anywhere else, watch interviews with actors, they will be praising his performance, and I think he's the one that will win for When They See Us. If it only picks up one acting award, it will be for him. He won't take it in a cakewalk, I'm guessing, because Jared Harris is incredible in Chernobyl and also attracted a lot of support. But his performance is very different. It's very quiet and very internal sometimes. But if Chernobyl starts winning everything, I wouldn't be surprised to see him win. But I would 100% vote for Jarrell Jerome.
Yeah. No, good point. Any more comments for anyone on that category?
Jarrell Jerome all the way.
Another category.
Oh, sorry.
Go, Riley. No,
I think
Riley.
Mahershala Ali is being underestimated. I feel like he's way down in like 6 or something in the prediction center. I think that he's one of the 3 that could take this.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Comedy. Another category Daniel sort of mentioned could be interesting is comedy supporting actor, where we've got Alan Arkin for The Kominsky Method, Anthony Carrigan for Barry, Tony Hale, Veep, Stephen Root, Barry, Tony Shalhoub, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Henry Winkler, Barry. A lot of people are predicting Tony Shalhoub to win this, but this category is causing me a lot of grief with who to pick. I think it could go. I think about half the field could take this out, and we know in the supporting races, Emmy sometimes love to throw us a curveball. So, what do you think, Riley? Where do you think this one could be landing?
Well, first I'll just say that Charlie is having technical difficulties and he will not be able to make it. So.
Oh, no. He was restarting his computer, so that's a shame.
Yeah, he's throwing in the towel. I've got Tony Shalhoub for the comedy supporting actor race. He did win SAG, he was certainly helped there by vote splitting. He's also helped here by vote splitting. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel might win series. It's certainly good at winning acting awards, even this year. The problem with Barry is that you've got the guy who won last year, you've got the scene-stealing performance in a comedy category, and then you've got the guy who's overdue. So I don't know how you choose between the 3 of them, when making a prediction at least.
Yeah. What do you think, Daniel?
Yeah, I think this was a really close race, and it still is. But I feel like everything that could have happened in Tony Shalhoub's favor really did happen. First off, he's got the defending champ Henry Winkler, as Riley said, is up against the overdue Stephen Root and scene stealer Anthony Kerrigan. I feel like all three of them are going to have significant support. And then another chief rival, Alan Arkin, on the Kaminsky method. The Kaminsky method didn't do as well as we thought it would. We had it predicted in our odds for Best Comedy Series to be a nominee. All it ended up getting were Michael Douglas and Alan Arkin. So there's not as much love for that one as there is for Maisel. And then Maisel drastically overperformed with, surprise nominations for Rufus Sewell in the supporting category. They added Maren Hinkle in the supporting actress category. And just like Jarrell Jerome, here's a show that the actors branch loves, where they only have one nominee from the show to choose from in this category, and that's Tony Shalhoub. And he's an Emmy favorite, won 3 times for Monk. So I really feel like it's not a done deal. Like, again, having a previous winner, Henry Winkler, and 2-time previous winner, Tony Hale, and a beloved acting veteran like Alan Arkin, this could go in any number of ways. But I feel like all the factors that could add up to a Tony Shalhoub win are here.
Okay. Like that. I'm currently sitting on Henry Winkler just because he won last year, this award, and I think he's just such a beloved actor, and it's a great performance. But you're starting to convince me, Daniel. I might just change that prediction to Tony Shalhoub. I'll wait for the end of this discussion just to see if someone sways me in another direction. And I guess a big thing of Henry Winkler last year was he was overdue. He'd never won an Emmy before. Well, that's not the case anymore. Yeah. So any of that sentiment that had built up for him is not at play this year. That being said, I think he's still very well liked, and there's a lot of love for Henry Winkler. And the Emmys do love their repeat winners. So, Luca, do you want to add anything to this race?
Well, I'm not overthinking it. I've had Tony Shalhoub in #1 since the nominations came out. He can capitalize on the Barry vote split. I don't think Henry Winkler has enough passion this year. I think, as everyone's already mentioned, last year he had that narrative that he'd never been awarded an Emmy. He doesn't have that this year, and even though I don't watch Barry, I've heard that he didn't have that much material this season like last season. So I think that could hurt him as well. I have Alan Arkin in second place, even though the Kaminsky method isn't nominated, just because of his name, and I think he might be the one person that could overcome this trend, but I think Tony Shalhoub is pretty safe, even though I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Hale just took this, because they've given him this award twice already, I believe, and they love repeat winners sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's been a while since, just want to add, it's been a while since Tony Hale, a couple of years since Tony Hale has been in this category by himself from Veep. Yeah. The snub of Matt Walsh, it doesn't look good for the Veep's chances since the show went down overall. But the fact that Tony Hale is alone in this category from Veep actually might make him more of a threat than we might think.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. Sam?
I have Tony Shalhoub as well for Mrs. Maisel. He won this category when his role was smaller. In season 2, that was vastly expanded. They gave him a lot more to do, which I think helps him a lot. We've already discussed a lot of reasons, but I have debated whether to go with Henry Winkler or not. I think he's a really, really well-liked guy, and is just so personable that people will want to vote for him. But the presence of the other Barry actors gives me a little bit pause, because if it's a close race, losing even a few votes to your co-stars, like for Stephen Root, who's had an amazing career, and actors could be drawn to this, character actor finally getting his Emmy award, and sort of sacrificing any amount of votes like that to a co-star in a close race could do you in. So I'm going with Tony Shalhoub. I think it'll be one of the several Mrs. Maisel wins.
Yeah, and look, I don't think Alan Arkin's lower on my list of predictions than probably most people, but I would say, you discount a Chuck Lorre's performance at your own peril. Actors from his series have done quite well whether it's what's her name, Melissa McCarthy or John Cryer. So or Allison Janney, who I guess did go into the awards that she won in the front runner position. But some actors from his show do quite well, even when their series isn't nominated in the best comedy series race. And Alan Arkin, an Oscar-winning beloved working actor, I think could be a real threat here, even though I'm sort of, in my predictions, if you look at the rank, discounting him.
I have a couple things. I'll say that I really want to see The Man in the High Castle submit Stephen Root in Guest Actor, seeing as he plays the man in the High Castle. I feel like maybe they could have gotten him in this year. I think next year for the final season, that'll be a potential name check nomination there.
Yeah.
I'm predicting Tony Shalhoub, as I mentioned, which is ironic because he is the one nominee last year who did not win for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel that was nominated in the main categories. It was up for 6 awards. It won 5 of them. This year, I'm predicting it'll lose those 5 races, but it'll win for him. So there's not really a lot of logic there.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And I think Tony Shalhoub's performance was a bit showier this season too. They gave him a bit more to do, which would explain why maybe last year he wasn't in the discussion as much. There we go. Luca and Sam, I might ask you to leave the conversation now, so we'll chat with Daniel a bit more. We've got another section. We've got another about 10 minutes of this sort of segment. But thank you so much for your thoughts, analysis, and comments.
Thank you so much.
Happy Emmys.
Bye-bye.
Yes, happy Emmys.
Happy Emmys.
Oh my gosh, we're less than an hour away. We're 20 minutes or 19 minutes away from the prediction center closing as well. Riley, is there a category you want to talk about we haven't talked about yet? We've got 50 minutes to get through all the categories we haven't talked about.
Well, I better check at some point to make sure I've logged the right predictions, I'm interested by drama directing. That's one where we could see Game of Thrones, just continue its sweep. And at this point, I'll mention that I'm wearing my Game of Thrones socks. There they
Whoa!
are.
Let's see. What house are they? What house?
I think
it's a mix. Okay.
I don't know. I should look at them a bit closer, I guess. I'm going with Adam McKay for Succession, and that's a win that I actually would like to see. It's not that often that my tastes align with, the Emmys or Oscars or what have you. But I thought the Succession pilot was the best drama pilot that I have seen since Homeland.
Well,
so I'll put that out there.
Unbelievable. So, what the nominees for directing in a drama series are Game of Thrones has 3 nominations. They're nominated for The Iron Throne, which is their final, The Last of the Starks, The Long Night, which was the big night battle against the Night King. Handmaid's Tale is nominated for Holly. Killing Eve is nominated for Desperate Times. Ozark is nominated for Reparations, and Succession is nominated for Celebration. So, what do you think, Daniel?
I've got The Long Night, and I've got Succession in second place or third place, but I have it definitely high up in my top 3. I think if there's going to be a show to capitalize on a potential Game of Thrones vote split, it would be Succession, and the name recognition of Adam McKay, now an Oscar winner, and the fact that Succession has gotten so much more buzz in its second season than it even did in its first season, which was airing during Emmy voting this summer. So that definitely helps. Game of Thrones, though, I feel like in some categories, I think there's a vote splitting problem. Here, I'm not necessarily sure there will be. I think, The Long Night is the showiest episode. It's the big battle episode, the last battle episode of Game of Thrones to win writing and directing was Battle of the Bastards a couple of seasons ago, which actually tied the record for the most wins for a single episode with 6. The Long Night is already up to 5 after Creative Arts, which is more Creative Arts than Battle of the Bastards won, because Battle of the Bastards won writing and directing. So I feel like this is the showiest piece of directing, even though it was hard to see at times. The cinematographers branch held that against Game of Thrones, didn't nominate this particular episode, but pretty much every other branch that nominated this episode just kind of showered it. So I feel like it's going to be that one. And I feel like even if the Iron Throne pulls some votes, I could still see those two episodes finishing 1 and 2. It could just be a case where the vast majority of the votes look at the kind of technical achievement Game of Thrones is and just say, whatever they're picking something from there, and a vote split might not be enough to hurt it.
Yeah, I'm going with The Long Night too, but I would throw in there, is there... how many of those categories that The Long Night won last week was there vote splitting at play? How many of them was it just the game? How many of them were
editing? Yeah,
editing,
that was the one that did it
yes.
for me. When I saw it with editing, it was up against 2 other episodes of Game of Thrones there, and I thought okay, if there was no vote split problem there might not be a vote split problem for directing.
And I think that was and if you watch our Game of Thrones recaps, I had a few issues with this season and some of the plot. I was not the hugest fan of this final season Game of Thrones. I actually really liked this episode. I actually thought this was I really enjoyed this episode. This is not one that I was complaining a lot about at the end. So I'd love it. I'd be really happy.
Yeah, it was all downhill from here after this episode. Yeah,
this was this is where I
pretty much from the moment where Arya stabs the Night King, and I remember watching that. That was the only moment of the episode where I was like, really? That's it? And then the rest of the season kept doing that over and over and over again, that feeling. So yeah, definitely the long night was kind of the last night, I would say, of
that
Game of Thrones being really kind of on top of its game.
Was Arya stabbing the Night King when the show jumped the shark? Is that the jump the shark?
We're going to rename it. It's no longer jumping the shark. It's stabbing the Night King.
Yeah, jumping the White Walkers. So anyway, there you go. And I did change my prediction from Henry Winkler to Tony Shalhoub. Okay. So the prediction. So just for those playing along at home.
Yeah. The Long Night is the favorite in the Gold Derby Prediction Center. But among us editors,
yes,
Succession actually overtook it toward the end. Now, Celebration by Adam McKay is the favored choice. So I guess you guys are in the minority among Gold Derby staff and contributors.
And the
Did
editors
changed to Succession after voting closed, because those are the dangerous kind of prediction changes.
Yeah, I know, right?
I think this is changing the race, and it's like, well, the voting ended a couple of weeks ago. So I'm very wary of changing my predictions unless at the last minute, unless something strikes me. It's like, oh yes. I've only really changed one major category, I think, since the voting ended, and it wasn't a new development. It was something I had been thinking about for a while. So,
and what was that? You remember?
Yes, it was actually drama supporting actress. I sort of agree with the consensus idea that Game of Thrones will probably split its vote there. I had Julia Garner at first, but it's not been sitting well with me for a while, so I'm taking a chance on Fiona Shaw.
I think
she has sort of, she's this, veteran character actress like Ann Dowd was, a couple of seasons ago. She has this incredible resume. She has snob appeal. Emmy voters love Killing Eve this season in the actors branch. They gave it, Jodie Comer, Sandra Oh, and Fiona Shaw got in. That wasn't even a guarantee that she'd make it in. So I think she is the beneficiary of the vote split more than Julia Garner. But honestly, that could go either way.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Garner, but I really love that pick, Daniel. I think that and Brits tend to upset at the Emmys, don't they? They don't always win, but they're Claire Foy upset last year. Even the Sherlock guys one year in the mini races upset. It really makes so much sense that Fiona Shaw could win this category.
And we could see a double Brit upset, kind of like we did with Sherlock. Like if it ends up going Fiona Shaw and Jodie Comer, we could end up seeing that happen.
Yeah. Riley, so drama supporting actress, you got Gwendolyn Christie, Lena Headey, Sophie Turner, and Maisie Williams all for Game of Thrones. Then you've got Julia Garner for Ozark and Fiona Shaw for Killing Eve. Who are you picking?
Yeah, I've had Julia Garner the whole time. Fiona Shaw is concerning. Julia Garner, she got a SAG nomination. She's a breakout star, and I feel like the Emmys in recent years, they've really been drawn to these breakouts. It doesn't really matter how old they are, but that's just one of the things that they like. Speaking of Ozark and SAG, I love Jason Bateman's speech. I think that's one of the best speeches I've seen at an award show. And I'm very concerned that he could win. I think we're pretty much all going. Well, actually, Matt, maybe you're going with Bob Odenkirk or something.
I'm going with Odenkirk.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I if I switched it, I'd actually switch to Jason Bateman. I think Ozark, there's a lot of support for that show over 2 years amongst the guilds and things like that. So, and I'm very tempted to change that prediction right now while we've got 10 more minutes or 9 more minutes of the prediction center being open. There's a part of me that just, I've thought, like, it's sort of a bit now of a pride thing with Bob Odenkirk where I don't want to change it late because I have been thinking for a while that he would win for it. So yeah, not sure. Convince me, Daniel. Convince me, Riley.
Well, what I was going to say is that, most people are going with Billy Porter, but I kind of wonder if Billy Porter is just kind of like Jonathan Banks in Better Call Saul or Titus Burgess in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, where even though, yes, he is in a series nominee, it's a series nominee that is not nearly as seen as, Ozark or Better Call Saul in this case. So I'm a little wary of Billy Porter, even though I understand the reasons for him and I am predicting him.
Okay. Daniel, what do you think?
Yeah, I've got Billy Porter. This is one of those categories where I think everyone has sort of negatives going into this in terms of their candidacy. So it's not like a lot of categories where it's like, like everything, like you look at like Chernobyl versus When They See Us. Both of them are so strong. It's a matter of which is stronger. In this category, it feels more like who has the fewest cons. Because you've got Jason Bateman and Bob Odenkirk. Bob Odenkirk's been nominated every year for, he's been eligible for Better Call Saul, so they like him, they like this role. Nominated for Best Drama Series again. Jason Bateman just got the SAG Award a few months ago, so the actors in the industry really like him. He's been nominated at the Emmys, for Ozark the last couple of years, and before that, Arrested Development, so there's a lot of love around him. The big problem about those two is that their shows aired a year ago and haven't come back. So they've been sort of out of sight, out of mind for a while. They both feel like they were ages ago. Whereas Pose, the season that Billy Porter is nominated for, actually aired even longer ago. It was at the beginning of the summer. But season 2 of Pose has been airing this summer. Billy Porter, in the meantime, had his Oscars moment where he kind of made a huge statement with his tuxedo gown. He was in Taylor Swift's music video. You Need to Calm Down. Like he's sort of like the it guy, and I feel like in a race for if it's a passion vote, like you get one choice, check off number 1 on your ballot. In a divided field, he just might have enough passion to do it. Especially because Pose doesn't have any other acting nominees. So if people in the actors branch really like the show, or at least if enough of them do, then he's your only game in town.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll stick, just because like if I even switch to Bateman or Porter, I might even be wrong on which one I switch to. So I'll stick with Odenkirk. I think he's the overdue candidate here. He's got a great episode. He's a great performance, and they like Better Call Saul. It's a pretty consistent performer in terms of nominations. So I'll stick with that. But that's a tough race. That's a really tough one. Let's go now to. Is there another one you want to talk about, Daniel? Because I'm going to invite the other guys in a minute to the chat room.
I would like to. I think you guys talked about it a little bit. Best comedy directing.
Yeah.
That was a race. It's sort of like the opposite of drama directing for me, where Game of Thrones won editing, and I realized, it's not going to be hurt by the vote split necessarily. Same thing happened with Fleabag at Creative Arts, where it won editing against 2 shows that had a vote split, Maisel and Barry, just like they have here. That first episode of Fleabag's second season is highly much more technical than most of the other episodes of the series. It's one setting. It's very kind of visual in a way that the show usually isn't, and that kind of change of pace often looks good for the director. And so I actually have it winning both writing and directing, even though I'm not predicting it for best comedy series. So I'm kind of splitting. I'm splitting my bets across the comedy field.
I mean, that's what I'm doing with Succession, taking writing, directing.
Well, yeah, and look, like you have shows that take out writing and directing and then don't go on to win comedy series. There is precedent for that. You then also have shows like Arrested Development that won comedy, directing and writing in a comedy, and then went on to win series. So it's not necessary. I wouldn't, if you're watching the Emmys and a show wins directing and writing, means it's a lock to win series. Although I would say maybe if it's if Barry or Maisel wins both, that I would say that show's looking very, very good. Because you'd think for Fleabag to win, it needs to win at least one of those writing or directing awards. And if Barry or Maisel beats the other in both of those categories, it would indicate some pretty broad support.
Yeah, I mean, Barry has been watched by, it was on after Game of Thrones or before Game of Thrones. Its ratings went way up this season, has much more visibility. It appeals to kind of a different demographic than all these other shows. I can see how it would be just kind of the show that has a consensus without any particular branch really gravitating toward it. The same with Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Whereas Fleabag, I think it's going to need to sweep.
Yeah, so I'm going to invite, stay with us, Daniel, but I'm going to invite Zach and Tony to join us now. And, oh, dang, the Emmys are gone in the prediction center. Want to switch to Odenkirk from Team Suzuki. So, well, I'm out of the...
Sometimes missing your window of opportunity is a blessing in disguise, trust me. You can say like, oh, I meant to switch to this thing, and then you look at your predictions at the end of the night, and you win the predictions contest, and you didn't have time to make the changes that you intended to, and you're like, good. So that's happened.
So we have about 35 minutes to the Emmys, and we've got a lot of categories we haven't touched on yet. The comedy race we haven't talked about at all yet so far is comedy supporting actress. Which is a crowded field, crowded in that it's 3, 4, 5, 8 nominees. And we've got Alex Borstein from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Maren Hinkle from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. You've got Anna Klumsky from Veep. You've then got Sian Clifford and Olivia Colman from Fleabag. You got Betty Gilpin from Glow, and Sarah Goldberg from Barry, and Kate McKinnon from Saturday Night Live. Do you want to give us a quick thought on that, Daniel, before you leave?
This is like you have a couple of contenders here who could split the vote, but this is a category with 8 nominees. You could win this with such a small percentage of the vote theoretically that I'm not sure how much a vote split is going to be an issue. I've got Borstein winning again because I've got it winning, Maisel winning both supportings and comedy series. So that's sort of how I've sort of split my bet there. I don't think Maren Hinkle is going to take away too much support from Borstein, and I feel like there are just so many other places voters can go. I am wary of Olivia Colman. She could absolutely win this. But voters loved Fleabag enough to have watched it, and if they watched it, they know how good Sian Clifford was in this past season, and she had more screen time in this past season. So I can see them dividing some votes between them. It's really a crapshoot, this category. Like, they nominate so many people in this category. This is like the second time in 3 years that there have been 8 women in this category. It's really kind of trying to figure out if anyone else could win it. Who else is in that?
Klumsky's overdue.
Yeah.
She's never won. I think it's hard with the lack of Glow support. See Gilpin, like Goldberg, if there's just a lot of Barry support. And Kate McKinnon's won before, so
yeah. I think Klumsky is the only other one who I really think could do it because again, like, we sort of don't talk about Veep very much except for Julia Louis-Dreyfus, given that the last season didn't do as well in the nominations. But Anna Klumsky is overdue. There aren't many women who have been nominated this many times in this category without ever winning. She's been nominated, I think, 5 or 6 times. So it's very possible it could go to her. This could be one of those weird nights where Veep ends up sweeping the acting awards, and I would look at that and go, I would just like slap my forehead, going like, we should have really seen that possibility coming at least, if not predicted it. So that's something to watch for.
Well, thank you so much for your thoughts, analysis, and comments, Daniel, and happy Emmy watching.
Okay. Fingers crossed to all of us for our predictions, but mainly me.
Thanks, Daniel.
I hope you all do really well, but that I do one better.
Exactly.
Get rid of him.
Everyone else should get 99%, and I'll get 100.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, very good. And I actually hope the editors group does the best. Like I collectively. Tony, comedy supporting actress. What do you think?
Daniel pretty much stole everything I was thinking about why I'm predicting Borstein. I think that 4 people really have a shot at that. I think that I'm predicting Borstein, but I think Sarah Goldberg has a really good shot. And every once in a while, even since we switched to this new voting system, every once in a while they watch the episodes, and Sarah Goldberg submitted a dynamite episode. So I don't think she's out of this at all, but I have Coleman in second. I think I have Klumsky in third, and I have Goldberg in fourth.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not as much of a prescriber as others to say that episodes now don't matter. I think they do matter a little less, but they are put up online. They're, for an Emmy voter, like somewhat accessible. And I'm not saying that I don't. It'd be very interesting now. We've got enough years of probably not having the taste to actually go through the winning episodes and see how many head-scratching performances have won over, like, because there were years when they had the tape system where we were like, how did that performance win? Like, how did Blythe Danner win for season 2 of Huff and all those sorts of things? So I'd be interested in seeing. So yeah, maybe tapes will factor in, and maybe Goldberg will benefit. Zach, what do you think about this race?
I think that the other 7 nominees this year are going to be this Emmy season's Glenn Close, and that they're all going to lose to Olivia Colman. This is a really tough category to call because, I mean, as Daniel pointed out so astutely, Sean Clifford is a strong possibility for Fleabag as well. She's been doing a great job campaigning, and she does have a meatier part than Olivia Colman. But Olivia Colman has got that recent Oscar winner's shine, and so we'll see, how much that actually stands to benefit her. Sometimes it does benefit an Emmy contender. Sometimes it doesn't. Just ask Matthew McConaughey, for instance. But I mean, I could see Alex Borstein just as easily repeating, even though Maren Hinkle is a strong vote splitter for her. I could see Anna Klumsky or Sarah Goldberg winning, depending on how strong their shows overall perform overall. Kate McKinnon, I think that her time is kind of passed, so I have her ranked a little bit lower. So I think it's really between those 5, 6, however many women, out of the 25 that are nominated in this category. And it goes along with my idea that Fleabag is going to have a very good night tonight, and that Olivia Colman will be a part of that.
Yeah, some of you guys are very high on the Fleabag. I don't see it winning as many. I think
correct, though. That's what
we'll find out. We'll find out. I think it'll win 1 or 2 tonight, but I'm not sure. Not sure if it'll go on a sweep. But we're very close to finding out. Riley, anything you want to weigh in on comedy supporting actress?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'll say they're not watching the episodes for 2 reasons. First of all, there are like 100 acting nominees. So how would any one person log on to the site and have time for all of that? Like back when voters could only be on one panel, then sure, they could watch the 6 episodes, especially since they volunteered to be on that panel to watch the episodes. Whereas now it's open to everyone automatically and they get access to everything. So that's like hundreds of hours of content potentially once you throw in, the series categories or whatever else. I don't see how it's feasible. Like, putting aside whether they want to, I don't see how they could. And then secondly, I think that we've had way too many inexplicable wins these past few years that have zero correlation to the episodes. Whereas before, we would have some wins that were questionable, but nothing questionable to the extent that we get with some wins these days. As for this category, for me, it was down to two people when I was trying to decide who I'd predict, and that was Olivia Colman and Betty Gilpin. Olivia Colman, she could ride the Fleabag wave of love, but I'm a bit concerned about vote splitting for Fleabag, as we saw in the guest category at the Creative Arts. So if there's support for Sean Clifford, maybe that could draw enough away from her. Betty Gilpin, she has arguably the best episode, but if she wins, it won't be because she has the best episode. It's because voters are watching TV sometimes, and when they're voting for their favorite often will have put in good work and will have delivered a solid tape over the season at some point. Betty Gilpin, she's not in a series nominee, but I see her as being in a show that's kind of like A Very English Scandal, which didn't have enough support for a series nomination, maybe not enough passion, but I think has still been seen widely enough that she could be the beneficiary, or her strong performance could carry her through.
That's fair enough about the takes, and I do think the posting the episodes online isn't as much of the issue as it is that they don't limit the amount of categories you can vote in. And I think that was good when there was limited categories everyone could vote in. Yeah. So let's talk about another limited actress race. Let's talk about, another supporting actress race, because I don't think we've talked about supporting actress in a mini series or limited series or movie. Patricia Arquette, The Act, Marsha Stephanie Blake, When They See Us, Patricia Clarkson, Sharp Objects, Vera Farmiga, When They See Us, Margaret Qualley, Fosse Verdon, Emily Watson, Chernobyl. All the editors are, I believe, picking Patricia Clarkson to win. This is Sharp Objects, category to lose. Is that what we all think? Does anyone have a different opinion?
It just seems like it's a sort of a done deal at this point. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't buy into the argument of, well, she's won a bunch of Emmys before, and so she'll win again, because we see that broken over and over again. But I think that in this case, it's a combination of an actress who they really like and a category that I don't want to denigrate the work of anybody that's in here, but it's very flashy. The only other comparison the only other comparable performance would be like Patricia Arquette in The Act, and that show drastically underperformed in comparison to Sharp Objects. So I don't know. I think this is. I hate to say that it's an easy call, but it kind of seems like it'd be a shocker if anybody else won.
Yeah, like with Patricia Clarkson now looking like she might lose lead actress, I wonder if she becomes a bit more of a threat here, and that will be our sort of one of our upsets of the night. But no doubt as to who I was predicting here. And she's great performance from Patricia Clarkson. I thought that was really what made this series so good. Sharp Objects was the three women at the center of it: Amy Adams, Patricia Clarkson, and Eliza Scanlon, who I think was snubbed not to get nominated here. Actually, saw her in a play in Sydney a couple of weeks ago. She was doing Lord of the Flies, and I saw her at the stage door. I was there were only two of us, me and my mum, at the stage door. And I said, "Hope Sharp Objects does well at the Emmys." And she went, and she was like, "I really hope so too."
So what you're saying is you curse this poor girl. Is that what
yeah, probably. Yeah, maybe.
You ruined her chances.
Yeah, definitely. So I think nominations were out at this point. So I don't think anyway. So here we go. So we talked about that one. We talked about
Matt.
Yes.
So Chris has emailed us that now
Yes.
we have the complete ceremony rundown
great.
in all 27 categories.
Oh,
Yep.
Chris and Marcus, I guess, have put this together. So we know that it's going to start with the comedy field, and we know who's presenting every category. Then they're going to save comedy series for toward the end, but they're going to go to competition after comedy. Then it'll be a Game of Thrones reunion. Then there'll be the limited series and movie categories. And then in the middle of that, there's going to be a Veep reunion. Then we're going to move over to the variety categories. And finally, we'll go to the drama categories, which will have In Memoriam and comedy series somewhere in the middle there.
Well, yeah, boy, I love that they're doing a Game of Thrones and a Veep reunion, because whatever you think of the final seasons, whatever you think of those series, they're shows that have been big players at the Emmys. They've each one going into tonight 3 Best Series awards. They both had their final seasons, and I love it when they do that and do a nod to show. And I just hope those are good moments and not, just the Jersey Boys singing.
Too bad about the Big Bang Theory, though, for fans of that.
I was going to say, the one network television show that has been a consistent, top 10 player throughout its entire run, and they can't even spare up freaking, 4-time Emmy winner in Jim Parsons. They can't even spare a moment for him.
Like, I remember back in 2010 when they did like a little tribute to 24 and Lost and Law and Order, even though, 2 of those hadn't really been Emmy players for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, Big Bang Theory, win Best Series if you want to tribute. Like, win the Best Series award if you want to, like, Law and Order, Lost, 24, they all won Best Series. Veep and Game of Thrones have won 3 Best Series awards. Both maybe will have won 4 Best Series awards by the end of this evening, particularly Game of Thrones. So Sopranos got a bit of a tribute with the Jersey Boys. They'd won 2 I guess they'd won 1 Best Series award heading into that night, and then they won their second one that evening. Win Best Series if you want to tribute. Yeah, it would be interesting to see what they do when Modern Family ends, because like that was won 5 Best Series. That's an equal record. But they haven't really been in the Emmy mix the past 2 years, so it's sort of a bit different to Veep and Game of Thrones, where a lot of the everyone's coming, whether they did tribute or not, everyone was going to be there tonight to see if they win Best Series. Mm-hmm. Great move. I'm really excited about that. Anything? Just seeing if any of the presenters jump out. You got Ben Stiller and Bob Newhart on the first category.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited that Norman Lear and Marissa Tomei are presenting comedy series.
That's great. Yeah. Drama series will be presented by Michael Douglas. Gwyneth Paltrow, drama actress. Don Cheadle and Kristen Bell are presenting drama supporting actress. That's sort of a cool pair up for getting a sort of mini House of Lies reunion up on stage. I like when they pair people when they've got a reason to pair them. I like that. Oh, Lin-Manuel Miranda is presenting variety series writing. Julia Louis. Sorry?
I particularly like the pairing of RuPaul and Zendaya presenting limited series directing.
Yeah. And you've got, I love this, limited series actress, which is going to be a big award, whether it's Michelle Williams, Patricia Arquette, Amy Adams, whoever wins that, will be presented by Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Tony Hale. And I can't imagine what they have in store. I hope they've got something fun planned for that. Jimmy Smits and Bradley Whitford are presenting limited series writing together, a little mini West Wing reunion.
And they both have shows on NBC this fall, so.
Yep. Bill Hader and Phoebe Waller-Bridge are presenting together. They could be both lead acting winners tonight, or both winning in writing or directing categories tonight too. So very cool. And there you go. The competition program is being presented by the Kardashians.
Yeah. God.
Yeah, there you go. So for all those Kardashian fans, don't worry, they'll be there.
So there's no host this year, but it's good that we still have presenters.
Yes, and I imagine with Ben Stiller and Bob Newhart opening, they might give a bit of a monologue, and they'll be, funny, and like they're a TV comedy icon with a comedy movie star together.
Another TV comedy icon. Have you forgotten about the Ben Stiller show, Matt?
Oh yes, no, sorry, another TV comedy icon.
Yeah, they're comparable.
And second category, comedy supporting actress, Catherine O'Hara and Amy Poehler. That's sort of fun.
That'll be
cool.
That has to be good.
So yeah, there's some really, really exciting stuff, and that's been broken at Gold Derby. You can read through the whole list at goldderby.com. We do not have long. We have 15 minutes, and there's a lot of categories we haven't talked about yet. So let's do a quick sort of lightning round. I'm just going to go through the list of categories tonight, and the ones we haven't talked about, we'll quickly talk about. I don't think we've talked about comedy writing. We talked about directing, but not writing. You got Barry, Ron, Lily, Fleabag, episode 2.1, The Good Place, Janet. What a great episode of The Good Place that was. Pen 15 for Anna Isha Peters. Russian Doll, Nothing in the World is Easy. Russian Doll, A Warm Body, and Veep for Veep, their series final. Any big thoughts on this? I'm going with Fleabag for this one. I think this is where Phoebe Waller-Bridge is going to win an Emmy.
I think this is going to be the first of many for her tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think if it wins nothing else, it's got to win this.
The Veep final, I wouldn't sleep on that. And Barry, Ron, Lily, big episode there too. So, and of course, Pen 15 would be great for them to win because the writers spoke with Gold Derby. We had an interview with them, so you get the Gold Derby bump there.
It's interesting for people who don't watch Pen 15. Like that show actually is a comedy, and a lot of these nominees, it's kind of questionable whether they are or not. But they did submit kind of a very special dramatic episode from that show, and that's the one that's nominated here.
Mm-hmm. There you go. And if I was voting, I'd be very tempted to vote The Good Place, Janet episode. Yeah. That'll the Veep final because I think they were both really funny and great. Drama lead actor we have talked about, yes. Drama actress we've talked about. Drama supporting actor we haven't talked about. Alfie Allen, Game of Thrones. Nikolai Coster-Waldau, Game of Thrones. Peter Dinklage, Game of Thrones. Jonathan Banks, Better Call Saul. Giancarlo Esposito, Better Call Saul. Michael Kelly, House of Cards. And Chris Sullivan, This Is Us.
There's a reason we haven't talked about drama supporting actor because we really don't need to.
So we just think we just think it's Peter Dinklage.
Yeah.
And ironically, Viola Davis is presenting that category, and she presented the last time he won.
There you go. So,
I don't think it's as much of a lock as Bill Hader. Like,
I would agree.
It seems like an Emmy kind of thing to do where, when Peter Dinklage finally has a great season and, we're all predicting him, then he would randomly lose.
I'm not even sure if it's that much of a lock. I just don't know who else to predict.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, he couldn't win when Kit Harington was nominated against him. He could win when Nikolai Coster-Waldau was nominated against him. I wonder if Nikolai Coster-Waldau plus Alfie Allen equals one Kit Harington in terms of drawing away support.
Yeah. Look at this race. I think this could very well be a category where we see just a left field upset. Like, all of a sudden, Jonathan Banks wins for Better Call Saul. No one thinks he's going to win. Or they go with Nikolai Coster-Waldau and they just go, well, he hasn't won yet for Game of Thrones. Or maybe they chuck Michael Kelly a bone. I don't know. But it's hard not to predict Peter Dinklage just because there's no clear alternate to him, I don't think. I think it's a group of very well-respected actors from shows that they like.
I actually, in third place, I have Chris Sullivan in third.
Yeah, and there you go, Chris Sullivan.
And they love This Is Us, and they know how to put on events that will just highlight specific actors, and they really put a spotlight on him. Yeah. And I think he could definitely win if there is a vote split.
Yeah. Drama writing we haven't talked about. Better Call Saul for the Winner episode, which is their season final. Bodyguard episode 1. Game of Thrones, The Iron Throne, which was their season series final. The Handmaid's Tale, Holly, Killing Eve, Nice and Neat, and Succession. Nobody is ever missing. Is this... What are we going with here, guys?
I think this is going to be one of many instances within the evening where you're going to hear Ramin Djawadi's music playing, even though the internet will be experiencing a lot of consternation to see Game of Thrones win a writing award for the finale. I think that this is honestly a bit of an easier call than directing in some senses, because it's not competing against itself like it is in directing. And, I don't think there's a clear alternative. Succession, I think, would be a great winner and a worthy winner. I just don't know if, all of the buzz that show has gotten in its second season will have translated over into voting. One thing I would look out for, though, is what I have in third place, which is The Handmaid's Tale, considering how well that did at the Creative Arts Emmys. Yeah. But I think that this is just going to be one of those instances where, Game of Thrones is going to pick up another piece of hardware on its way out the door.
It is interesting how Handmaid's Tale will go with some of these categories, given that, one, it doesn't have vote splitting in the two, the writing and directing categories nominated in, and also that, you'll have your drama series ballot and your writing or directing ballot, and if you like Handmaid's Tale, you only, that's your votes concentrated in on that category. I wonder if it not being in drama series hurts it, because they're like, well, let's it's not best drama series. Okay, we can't vote for it for writing or directing. Or they go, oh, we can't vote for it in drama series. We better vote for it for writing or directing. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. Any other thoughts on drama writing?
I'm going with Succession, but Zach is right that there's not a clear alternative. I just think that the writers branch, over the years, we've seen them have choices that the rest of the Academy doesn't make. They make edgier choices, like Black Mirror in writing for a limited series or movie the last couple of years, even though there were nominees from shows that the Academy seemed to really like overall and that were very well acclaimed. Game of Thrones hasn't won this award in a few years, and it has a less acclaimed season now, so I don't see why they would jump over there. Just because we don't know what the alternative is. I'm not sure that Game of Thrones is really, in the top 3, even, let's say, for that category.
But let me just push back on what you said there for a moment, Riley. You're right; it hasn't won in a couple. You're right; it hasn't won in a couple of years. That's because one year it wasn't eligible, and then the next year it was up against the Americans finale. So, previous to that, it had won 2 years in a row, including for an episode that had about 5 words of spoken dialogue in it. So that's just where my theory comes in.
I think Killing Eve is who I'm predicting to win this. I do think there was enough talk about the writing of Game of Thrones this season, and that's where the disappointment lied, that it's probably eked through to Emmy voters. And I just think Killing Eve's a show that's had a lot of critical acclaim and support and things like that, and it's done well with nominations. It's got another lead actress nomination this year. Not that this branch decided that. So I'm thinking Killing Eve for writing. I'd love Better Call Saul to win for the final. I thought that was a great episode, and they tied up the season well there. But I think Killing Eve will win. We've talked a bit about limited series and TV movie. We've talked about the lead races there. We've talked about both of the supporting races there. Yes.
Although I do want to say that I think I'm probably the lone holdout that is not predicting When They See Us to win that much. As of right now, I only have it winning lead actor.
Yeah. Okay. And I imagine you're picking Chernobyl for limited series. Why Chernobyl over When They See Us?
I think Chernobyl is an event like we haven't seen in quite some time. We talk about how When They See Us did with the actors. They also submitted 30 actors for When They See Us. Chernobyl, they submitted 4, and 3 of them got in. I think that Chernobyl has a. It's funny when you compare Chernobyl and When They See Us in terms of which one is more watchable. I worry that When They See Us might be too tough of a watch for some people, and I think Chernobyl has more of a populist bent to it than When They See Us do. So I'm kind of expecting them to have a very good night.
If you nominate 30 though, and you get so many in, it means that they've overcome some vote splitting in the nomination process to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, but I look, I think it's a coin toss between Chernobyl and When They See Us tonight. We haven't really talked much about the movie mini directing and writing. I'll just read both of those sets of nominations out, and just if everyone could just tell me their predictions there. So directing is Chernobyl, Escape at Dannemora. Fosse Verdon has nominated twice for the Glory episode and Who's Got the Pain, Very English Scandal, and When They See Us. And the writing category is Chernobyl, Fosse Verdon, A Very English Scandal, When They See Us, and 2 episodes of Escape at Dannemora, episodes 6 and 7. I'm going with Chernobyl writing, When They See Us directing. What are you doing, Zach?
I'm doing the same thing as you. I think that Ava DuVernay is going to win for directing, and I think that Craig Mazin's going to win for writing. In this battle between When They See Us and Chernobyl, I think that this is one of the areas where we're going to see it kind of split. But to Tony's point, about Chernobyl, there is a possibility, I think, of a Johan Renck upset. I think that the big difference there is that Ava is such a powerhouse in the industry, and is somebody who is incredibly well known and also very savvy at campaigning, since she has a background in PR and all that.
Yeah.
So I think that she has been running the campaign for herself and for this show, and for Jarrell Jerome in particular, very beautifully, and I think that'll pay off.
Yeah. Tony, who are you predicting in the writing directing categories for limited?
I misspoke earlier. I do have Ava winning for directing. Okay. The only thing I still think that Chernobyl could win there, especially after how it overperformed at Creative Arts. But the fact that Ava is on the board of governors of the Academy, I think that'll be kind of like a name check. They'll be like, okay, this is where we're going to give Ava DuVernay an Emmy.
Yeah. Yeah. Riley?
I'm actually not that swayed by the Ava DuVernay name. I just figured that When They See Us, if it's going to win, it needs to win somewhere. And since I have Chernobyl winning writing, it better pick up directing. And I have it winning directing over writing, because When They See Us, at the Creative Arts, its only win was in casting, which is primarily voted on by directors. So I thought that was a good sign.
Yeah. I feel uncomfortable with my predictions of splitting it, because I could very easily see Chernobyl winning both or When They See Us winning both. But we'll find out what happens. We've really shortchanged with this web show the variety reality categories. Reality competition series, Amazing Race, American Ninja Warrior, Nailed It, RuPaul's Drag Race, Top Chef, and The Voice. RuPaul is already on our ladder, won 3 Emmys this year, that show. So I imagine that's going to win reality competition program, or is at least the favorite to do that. Does anyone have a differing opinion to that?
No.
Nope.
No? Variety sketch series. Saturday Night Live is the favorite to win there. And Variety Talk series, last week, Tonight with John Oliver is favorite to win there. They both won last year. Is anyone predicting an upset in those categories?
Nope.
Nope.
I really think that SNL can lose directing, because it lost technical direction. It lost the guest acting categories. It might be a bit weaker this year.
What does it lose directing to?
That's a good question. I have Last Week Tonight in second. But yeah, it might lose to Documentary Now or Who is America. So it's one of those Peter Dinklage's cases where I don't know what the alternative is. Plus, it usually wins. and it's got way more nominations than the other sketch shows, so it's a solid bet.
I think it wins. I think the fact that it's live, just directors love that accomplishment. But look, I would love documentary now to win that. I'd love documentary now to win best sketch series. I think that was the best sketch series of the year. The fact it broke through in writing and directing is good news for documentary now. But I think Saturday Night Live has the edge in the series and the directing category, which brings us to writing. Does writing go to last week tonight?
Yes.
Oh, look who it is.
Okay.
Do the Emmys start in 1 minute?
Yes, so we-
Okay, so we really got to wrap up this web show now that Charlie's here. We need to wrap this up. Where is the board? This is where shows stand. This shows where they could climb tonight. Where Mrs. Maisel could actually, if it won all of its categories tonight, and Game of Thrones didn't win anything, could actually set the record for most Emmy wins in a season. It's probably not going to happen. Game of Thrones is a lot of time. I will post a picture of this board up on my Twitter @NobTruth, and I'll post updates on the board throughout the night while the Emmys are happening. So just follow me on Twitter for that. Guys, the Emmys are starting right now.
Goodbye, everybody.
We better get there.
Okay.
Bye. We'll see you at the end of the show. There'll be a post show. Bye. There we go. We're done. We've got to now